Kia ora everyone, I'm Monika, the Education Manager from the Waitangi Treaty Grounds, and thanks for coming to our very, very, very delayed education session. And my speakers here on the stage will introduce themselves. We want to share a little bit with you about innovative things that are going on in regards to education in the museum space, some transformational practices that we feel will be interesting for other people to know about. My co-presenter, Tara Fagan, unfortunately can't be here. She had a different commitment, so I'll try to do my best to cover her part of this brief presentation. So Tara came up with the concept of the Raranga Matahiko project, which translates to Weaving Digital Futures. And this is what we have been running for the last year across 4 museums of the North Island. The programs of learning are designed with the teachers for each class. So it's bespoke programs that fit in with the learning at school, but they then have the museum content added in, and on top of all of that, we put a digital technology lens. The program is funded out of a Ministry of Education PLD program, a Digital Equity for All fund. So we are working in each of our regions with low desal schools, with students that have a limited access to digital technology, and they're traditionally those that are less likely to come to museums and take part in museum education programs. So the partners that are involved, Te Papa, of course, as the lead, our Auckland War Memorial Museum, MTG Hawke's Bay, and us at the Waitangi Treaty Grounds. This is our team when we had a get-together in Waitangi in January. And the reason why we are so keen to share the whole team with you is not only that each and every one of us are doing our bit to bring museum education and digital technology closer to our students, we also have become a team across the region. And anybody who is a museum educator, maybe like us from a small museum, will know how hard it is to have a limited amount of colleagues around, to be far away from other museums. I see some people nod, so that has really made a difference for us, that we can tap into each other's knowledge, skills, expertise, and learn with and from each other. We build very strongly on the relationships that we've got with within our own museums and across museums, and the expertise in the museums. So we rely on curators, on other museum educators to support us in the delivery of those programs. And in our case in Waitangi, our curatorial manager sitting up there, she really supports us in the most amazing way to bring kids and learning together in a way we at Waitangi haven't seen before. This is a short little video I would like to play to you, just that you can see what the program actually looks like. I will do my best to do a Tara with a German accent to explain to you what you can see on, what you can see on there. If I get this to actually work. There we go. So this was from the trial that was run here at Te Papa. Apologies, there must be sound somewhere coming up. Sorry? Yeah, sorry, I forgot to do that. Yeah. Can we put sound on for this one, please? I can just talk over it and we can let the pictures run. Okay, we'll just let it run from here. So this was the some of the trials, the first attempts of what that might look like with 2 kura from around Wellington, bringing in Maori medium facilitators, and these students were using what they saw in their exhibitions to work with the kaupapa they had at their school, and then use digital technology to create learning objects. We often talk about digital learning objects that then were shared back with the rest of the school, with the whānau and community, and ultimately with anybody they wanted to share them with. So that gave them a really good starting point to design the program and to see that it was scalable to go up to other places as well. As part of this, you see different museum educators, different staff here from Te Papa working with the students in the Hinatora lab. which is the classroom they're using for that. And you can see a lot of technology used, iPads, Surface tablets, but also at the same time, we're still using pen and paper. We are still working together, sitting around a table, talking with each other and learning with and from each other. Now, this was a kura, so it's all Te Reo Māori, and traditionally those schools we have found have had less access to the kind of education we can provide in museums if there's not a Māori medium educator in their team already. So I'm just going to skip ahead to the next slide here. Some of these are available on YouTube, so you can go and have a look on this yourself. This is what the learning might look like when you go in different museums. So this here is students in Auckland. They use a mixture of technology to engage with the objects in the exhibition, piece of paper and pen, smartphones, all sorts of things. Over here, some students doing stop motion animation, and this was the first ever class that came into Te Papa. They're engaging here with the exhibition, with the science exhibition. So we are very used to talking in education about student visits, about how many students we get through the doors. No disrespect, but often it's a bit like bumps on seats. How many people have we had? In this case, we're talking very much about learning hours. And over the last year, we managed to provide more than 43,000 learning hours, student learning hours, to these students across 4 different regions in the north. Now, Te Papa are the lead, but Te Papa are by no way, the boss, and we're just, the little minions doing our thing. We are all equal partners in this process. So I just quickly want to show you what it looks like for a small museum like us at the Waitangi Treaty Grounds. So prior to Raranga Matahiko, we had LEOTC and non-LEOTC, those kids that don't qualify under that. We were running holiday programs. We were working with groups of professionals, presented at conferences, did virtual visits. A lot of museums do that kind of stuff. Now, when we joined Raranga Matahiko, we thought about it carefully, of course, but some of the advantages that we found for our team from a small museum was, firstly, we got additional staffing. We got new digital technology equipment all through the contract. We couldn't have afforded it ourselves. We didn't even have the capacity to go and bid for contracts like that because we were not in a position to pull that together ourselves. Now, we've been getting new classes to come to Raranga Matahiko that weren't previously coming, but also classes from the same schools as our Raranga Matahiko classes come for LEOTC visits. So it's benefited not just Raranga Matahiko, it's benefited our LEOTC contract as well. We have had lots of PD and upskilling in the digital technology field, but also in the museum education, understanding our exhibitions in a different way. We're growing a team of facilitators across the country, as you could see in our photo before, and we are really helping each other improve our practice. It's a real network of educators that are working together. But what we've really found, also with the parent helpers that are coming in, we're lifting our the profile that we've got in our local education community. People go like, wow, they know what they're talking about. And the general community gets a different perception of what's going on at the Waitangi Treaty Grounds. For the organization, we build a lifelong attachment to Waitangi, students coming repeatedly over time and their adults. We have become a venue for extended learning, not just the 3 hours and then you're gone, and very much a 21st century approach to learning. We build our own capacity beyond the educators with the digitizing of collections, and we are also now in the process of developing a Raranga Matahiko temporary exhibition that will be exhibited there. So I don't want to take much more time because my co-speakers here truly deserve their time on here, but this is what learning looks like at Waitangi, very diverse, with devices, without, next to the waka and the wharerunanga. All these kind of learning opportunities are there, and what they develop out of there with digital technology can be quite remarkable. I just pulled a few examples out, paintings inspired by artworks displayed, a digital Te Reo Waitangi from looking at the artifacts, at the digital displays we've got, or another waka tower in virtual reality after they have seen Toki Mata Whaora and done a lot of study about that. We've got a number of videos in here of work that's been going on. There's some really cool work out there that these kids have presented. And rather than play this to you now, even though I would love to, if you would like to see some of these examples, please head to rarangamatahiko.com. That's our website. That's where a lot of examples are shared. I think, as a small museum, this is a really worthwhile way of going beyond our budgetary and staffing constraints, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. The level of work we're getting out of the kids has far exceeded everything I ever expected, and I'm really, really looking forward to seeing if we can roll it out further beyond where we are. So, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I don't know if he has got that one for you. Yeah. Oh, this one.
Oh, this one. So this is, where have I got this?
Oh, that's the point.
This there. Okay, cool. Kia ora koutou. My name is Esther McNaughton. I come from the Suter Art Gallery. I'm the educator there. I've been doing that for since 2001. But what I've come to tell you about today is my PhD project, and I'm just about to hand in my PhD next week. So it's near the conclusion. So I'm really happy to be able to share what I've been finding with the community from which my research arose. So I've done a national study on learning in art galleries in New Zealand. Well, national in New Zealand. Quickly go through it. This is my research question here. I was interested in finding out about the learning that was going on in art galleries and what was particular about the specific sort of learning that was occurring in there that was different from learning in other settings, in schools and in other situations. I started off, I just sort of got to this project because for my master's I did a project about novice learning, because as you know, when you go into a place like a gallery or a museum, it's usually encountering something for the first time, and it's quite often pretty amazing. And so there's a certain type of learning and thinking that occurs when people encounter things for the first time. So I studied that, and that was a single case study, and I was interested to know whether the things that I found in my master's could be extended. So I was really keen to do a national study. Now, this is really ironic because yesterday I was at a Mean's, I've got the demise of Mean's. Well, actually it's Born Again, which is really cool. It's been great. But in about 2001, we stopped having any Mean's conferences for quite a long time. And there was quite a sense of isolation between different people in the art gallery education field, and I guess probably in the broader museum field as well. And it was good to, the idea of doing a national study was also really good because for us, it's not really a big field of art gallery educators in New Zealand. In 2016, when I surveyed the whole field, I only found 41 people that did any art gallery education. They were employed at museums or cultural complexes or art galleries, and they, as part of their job, they did art gallery education. So that's not really very many people to study, so that was quite good too. So this is what I did. So I did a three-stage thing that sort of built on each other. In 2016, I did a survey of everybody, so I got demographic information, and I also got attitudinal information, and that sort of provided a bed for me to go into more depth. And the reason why I did that is that sort of research hadn't been done before, and I really just wanted to know about the field before I really determined what specific questions I was going to be asking. And that demographic information is really, really interesting, and you can get that off me. I tried to circulate it to people, so I have sent it to the educators who participated in, but it is really, really interesting because I asked all sorts of different questions like length of service and all sorts of things, and the type of information has got quite a lot of implications, but it's not key to the study. So stage 2 was a bit more in depth. That's where I got 6 selected case studies, contrasting case studies of art gallery educators around New Zealand who I met with. It was a narrative qualitative inquiry. They were telling me about their practice and their attitudes and what they thought and what they hoped to achieve through their programs, and that was really worthwhile. And from that, I gleaned some 9 particular themes that came out again and again. I wrote those up, and then I sent them out to some people that were willing to participate in focus groups. So after that I had some focus groups also of art gallery educators, different art gallery educators of New Zealand again, and we talked about my findings and whether they felt they reflected our field and what they thought the implications were. So that's what I did, and I can't tell you the whole project obviously in 15 minutes, but I'm just going to quickly try and whiz through the 9 main themes that came out. I really haven't got time to go into any depth, but you're welcome to contact me later or get the research project when it's published. I can send you the link, but at the moment I'll just really quickly whiz through what I've got. So basically, as you probably worked out from the research question, thinking was my main thing I started with, and what the particular thing is in art gallery education, what's particular about the thinking that occurs in art gallery education, and basically I think I can just really quickly say that there's 4 things that I mainly thought of. First, that it encourages cognitive flexibility. Engaging with art encourages cognitive flexibility, which is a really great thing to develop. That's a specific art thing. Secondly, visiting art galleries, often we're engaging with important existential and societal issues through the exhibitions, and so it enables students to have an opportunity to consider really important things that, the people I interviewed thought that they might not consider those sorts of things as much at school, but the setting of the gallery is really good for that. Thirdly, that this thinking occurs socially, so evolves in a group. So this is what I'm saying is what arose from what the people told me. These ideas I'm saying aren't my ideas; they're the ideas of my respondents. Finally, thinking in art galleries encourages metacognitive thinking, which is like thinking about thinking. So sort of being able to use strategic thinking, and I can't really go into this very much, sorry, and just sort of those sorts of things, strategic thinking, are really useful for in situations that are more broad than just art galleries. So that's a good reason for that. Let's go on to my other ones. So you'll see all these next ones I go through, they're all connected to thinking quite a lot. You can just read them as I talk. So obviously engagement's a really big thing. All my participants were really focused on student-centred learning, and obviously student-centred learning is engaging with students. So there was the engagement of the senses in visual arts, there's engagement through the eyes, but my respondents were thinking about also multi-sensory engagement. There's the emotional engagement of making connections with things, and the acknowledgement of the feelings and how feelings add to thinking and developing ideas. And of course, prior experience is something we always talk about in education. So we make it meaningful to the kids, like these guys, these little boys down there. You can see that they're really motivated because they can really relate to the picture that they're looking at there. So motivation encourages good quality thinking. I'm not going to read all that out. So I was really interested to see what the role of art making would be in art gallery education programs, because many of our programs, as you guys know, are funded through LEOTC, which has an emphasis on hands-on learning. And I wanted to just know how this art making, which is such an important part of gallery education, what role it had in the actual development of learning for kids besides just making things. And I found that it was generally used as part of a scaffolded learning situation where the kids would develop and think about ideas in the gallery, often in groups, and then those ideas would continue to be developed through the art making activity. So art making was more than just experimenting with a media. It was experimenting with a media with a purpose, and that is something that we want to really be aware of. I'm sure all the gallery and museum educators out there think about that. Yesterday we heard from Chris from the Ministry of Education. He was talking about hands-on, and he added this little extra thing in that I've never heard before, but he said it's meant to be hands-on, minds-on, but I don't think hands-on, minds-on is written down anywhere. So you really want to make sure that hands-on activity that you're giving with the kids is is purposeful, and I found that it was, and that was really pleasing. I'm just going to keep going through because we haven't got too much time. Flexibility was a great one. Like I talked to you when I was talking about thinking, cognitive flexibility is a great thing in art, because art is not kind of often not about a particular thing. It's what you bring to it, and the meanings are all over the place. It's a little bit ambiguous. You don't really know what you're learning, so you have to sort of be flexible to be able to cope with the understandings that are in the artwork. So we teach the kids that, but also the role. This also went into the role of the educator, and the educator themselves had to be very flexible to make connections with all the different things, people and things that needed to be connected to make effective learning. So there's flexibility on both levels, on the student learning level and on the pedagogical level for the educator. Collaboration, lovely, great photo, isn't it? That's the temporary suitor. So collaboration was integral to student learning. Ideas were developed in groups. This is across my different fields often. And also the people that developed the education programs, the gallery educators, were developing them in collaboration with school teachers, with the other art gallery educators. When they could make connections with them, they'd contact them. And also very important to have collaboration and support of the other staff members in your institution, and that came up quite a lot, that you have to feel like you're being understood by the other people on your staff, and that they really understand what your purpose is, because if they don't really understand your purpose, then they can't really support you effectively. Just keep going on. Now, this communication links really closely to collaboration, obviously. So I was pleased that my educators that I talked to, they all generally started with the students' questions, and they used their own questioning to support this learning of the students. So their approach to the inquiry. Vocabulary was seen as a really, really important way to develop more complex ideas in the students. There's one little thing that I didn't write down there that, I mean, you can just read that, but I'd just like to say one thing that I thought was really, really interesting. When I did my survey, I had this one label of institutions called cultural complexes, and so they're sort of art galleries with museums, and some of you guys probably work at them. And then I had this other category that was like standalone art galleries, and there was quite a contrast between the two and delivery of the curriculum, and I found that in cultural complexes, this probably isn't surprising to you, I'm talking about art delivery here and not the other programs, but within the art programs, if they were teaching art in a cultural complex, there was an emphasis on social studies, science, Māori, other areas as well as art. But when they were dedicated art galleries, there was much more emphasis on visual art and language, English. And English didn't really come up so much in cultural complexes, and it was like there was sort of a distinctly different practice between those two types of institutions. I thought that was really interesting. It'd be nice to find out more about that. Mediation, this is a role of the art gallery educator, and you can see all those points. It's like the art gallery educators, they're holding hands, making connections to help people, different groups, understand each other the whole way through, like between the gallery culture and the culture of the kids. So making those connections so that we can optimise learning. I'm going to just go through that one. One really wonderful aspect of being a gallery educator is the fact, especially we have quite a sort of provincial nation. About over 60% of our art galleries are in provincial cities, and so we're in small areas, and we support, we can quite get to know the people in our communities, and we support our communities, and we try and reflect our communities. And this was a really important thing for our gallery educators, the fact that we could help our students to feel like the gallery was their place, it was important, it had meaning, and it reflected the community, and it was part of the community, all those good sorts of things to do with the community. I didn't say this, but this is pretty much my last slide, but I started off with all these intentions of studying learning, but of course when I went round and sat down and met with all my colleagues, we wanted to talk about being professional and those sorts of things, and so I kind of got the second strand to my research, and they tie in really well, because you can't really provide good services if you're not professional, so I think these are really sort of poignant and interesting for us here today, these ones here, and I'd be interested to know whether museum educators also think these are similar. So professionalism was a really important thing for the art gallery educators. I had contact with them, and there was an awareness that there was a specific pedagogy to do with gallery teaching that was different from schools and different from museums, and it was really particular, and that's why it's important for us to make connections with each other, because we can understand and support each other effectively, because we know where we're coming from. But then there was these feelings of professional isolation, which came up again and again and again. So I'm so pleased that MEANS has started up again, because that's really helpful for that. So there were three things. There was this absence of a professional body. There's also the absence of a career structure and a union, and that was seen to weaken the profession. And actually, in my survey, I found that not many people stay in our profession. Like most people stay for less than 5 years, then they go and do something else probably because of those things, I'd say. Aspects of, I haven't really spoken about LAOTC, but that came up again and again too. The aspects of contestable national funding was seen as professionally inhibiting. Our advisory groups were seen as really great, but they don't replace. They give us knowledge of learning and skills, but they don't replace connection with our peers in the field, because it's a different sort of knowledge we get from them. And oh yeah, well, this is probably the same for everyone. The being really, really busy in your job sort of inhibits the purposeful thinking. Like one of my interviewees said that they were. They wondered whether it was really true what they were saying, because they felt like they were being a bit dishonest, being so sort of, they were talking about their philosophy, but normally it's just business, day to day, just getting the stuff out, teaching the kids, they go, doing and not really thinking about the bigger picture. So it's a good opportunity for them to think about the bigger picture. Anyway, that's like such a short version of it all. Here's my email. You're welcome to contact me. Hopefully I'll pass next week when I hand it in. Thank you very much for listening. Before I finish, I'd just like to say a really big thank you to all the people, there's probably some of them here today, who've added to my research, because it's not really my research, it's the research of my field. Everybody who was in the field pretty much has contributed to it over the period, and it's a great body of work, and I'm very pleased to be part of my community, so thank you. That's it for me.
Do I go too long? Tēnā koutou. Ko Irene te whenua, ko Lanyon te awa, ko O'Connor te whānau, ko Claire aho. So I'm Learning Manager at Tamaki Paingahira Auckland War Memorial Museum, which means I'm responsible for the team that design, develop, deliver learning experiences for us. And I'm quite deliberate when I introduce myself, and I'm looking at Tom, who's sitting in the front row, and I've noticed that my team have started to introduce themselves in that way as well. Just an aside. So basically, what I'm here today to talk about is our discovery kits. So this is a discrete project within our strategy in terms of our outreach and off-site experiences. We recognise that we're in a lucky position in terms of our resources, and we really feel that it's our responsibility to provide resources to Auckland schools as well as schools nationally. So the Discovery Kit process really came about by accident, if I'm honest. In my previous role, I was responsible for Dub 100 centenary work within the community at Auckland Museum. And we were offered an opportunity by Ministry for Culture and Heritage, who we'd done a lot of work with in that Dub 100 space, to sponsor the Walking with an Anzac Discovery Kit. So this Discovery Kit contained 32 beautifully reproduced objects. 1,000 of those objects were put in 1,000 different boxes. Teachers registered for those boxes, and they were sent out to schools. I won't go into too much detail about what they actually are, but the reason we were invited to sponsor that kit was obviously the online Cenotaph, which is the national database of service personnel, that we are kaitiaki for. So every single object relates to a specific person. So what we really wanted to do was highlight those key emotional touch points and put a face behind the name of the nurses and soldiers that served within World War I. The feedback from this kit was absolutely phenomenal. So MCH decided to release another 1,000 kits. So this has meant that over the last 18 months, 64,000 students have engaged with the Walking with an Anzac kit. And you know, selfishly, what it did was it provided me with an opportunity to take this as a business case to our business to say, hey, we need to jump on this bandwagon. And we worked with School Kit, who developed the Walking with an Anzac kits on behalf of MCH to deliver the Are We There Yet kit. So this is what I'm really here to talk about today. So the Are We There Yet kit has 6, again, beautifully reproduced objects, including a plate, a real plate from the Māori Women's Welfare League. And it's supported by a website of comprehensive resources. We had a hunch that providing students with the opportunity to understand unconscious bias was going to be a really good starting point. So actually at an NDF conference a few years prior to that, I'd seen Lillian Grace from Figure NZ present. So I had her business cards, and I knew that there was this interesting thing on there where, so we provided 8 cards that are similar to the Figure NZ business cards, which provided students with a talking point to begin They were not, hopefully, they were shocked and surprised and appalled when they turned over the back of the card and realised that the statistics highlighted some biases. And we also included the Draw a Scientist card. So if you're not familiar with that, it's decades long, started in the 1950s. Students are asked to draw a scientist, and invariably they draw a man with spiky hair and a white jacket. So that really helped the students because it went from years 5 to start to think about those biases. Sorry, I'm going to flick back. So the idea was that we really wanted students to create their own exhibitions in their own communities that mimicked our Are We There Yet exhibition that was at Auckland Museum. So we provided decals and the look and feel of our exhibition to provide a scaffold for students to be able to do that. And the results that we got were absolutely phenomenal. We've been blown away. So they range from the traditional displays that you might see in schools up in the top. I don't know my left and right, so I think it's in the left corner. But it's all round the back for me. And the next picture along was basically a whole school display that included some participatory and interactive moments. The Ashburton Museum worked with Ashburton Intermediate. So Ashburton Intermediate happened to have a kit, and part of the work that those students did was incorporated into that exhibition. The bottom row are students from Methven, and they took over a whole row of empty shops in Methven for their exhibition. So it really did capture the hearts and minds of students and their teachers. So I've selected just 4, some quite long pieces of feedback. And, you know, the accolades that we're getting from the teachers in terms of providing this good quality resource has just been phenomenal. You know, best written work to date. It challenged us to think, to change our teaching methods and try new things. Isn't that what we're all here to do, to challenge all of the time? And it's been such an amazing learning experience that we've decided to include the unit in their program next year. So we heard that students were wanting to do it the next term as well. So, you know, that's always great when students are keen to learn. And it was really the agency, I think, that, you know, the students had. So the first rollout that we did for the Are We There Yet kit went to 500 classrooms, about 16,000 students. It was very successful. So we were successful in receiving funding from the Ministry for Women to be able to roll that out wider. So it ended up going to 32,000 students. This is a key part of our strategy, as I said up front. So we are likely to roll out about 2 kits per year. It is an investment for us that we build in. So the next one coming up links in with an upcoming exhibition, Journey to Aotearoa, Tupaia, and the Endeavour. That name was only finalised yesterday, so I might have got it wrong. But essentially, this is going to encourage students to explore a number of different stories from a number of different perspectives and really start to think about, you know, there are many stories within a story. So it will go to 500 classrooms, 16,000 students, registrations. Teachers register for the kits. They were all taken within less than 24 hours, so they're popular and we know that they're highly successful and they're looked for before they arrive. We've got some crazy ideas about what might come next. We're looking at other kaupapa like disaster recovery, and crazy numbers for that one, just because we're partnering with some people, and we're also interested to talk to other partners if anybody in the audience is interested in having a side conversation. And for those of you who may know, we're also launching new gallery spaces next year. So the Design Your Own Museum kit will be a way for us to promote what we're doing and really encouraging students in their own communities to create their own museums about their school or their community. So it's really thinking about that localised curriculum that I know you guys talked a lot about yesterday at Meanne's, because everybody who I've been speaking to over the last few hours is talking about the localised curriculum. So that's me, and just wondered if anybody has any questions for any of us. Oh, good question. No. So we partner with a company called School Kit to deliver this. They actually partner with many corporates across the country, and their business model is deliberately that it's a free resource to schools. We respect that. They do amazing work. There is a cost to us, and you know, we budget some of that, and for some of that we receive funding. No.
One thing that might be a concern is that they don't visit your museum.
Yes.
They have the education, but you don't get numbers.
Yep, that's okay. So, yes, so we knew that these kits were national, and we knew that some schools wouldn't be able to get to us. So we designed the kits specifically so that it could be standalone or it could complement a learning offer. And that's okay for what we're trying to do with this particular product. And like I said, it is a discrete part of the strategy. It's only one tiny bit. And we've got big numbers that we need to hit. So by 2022, our target is to reach 100,000 students on site. That doesn't include the off-site number. Yes. Yes. Any questions for my colleagues? Yeah.
Did you have professionalism in those libraries? Did it come up about teacher registration?
Yes, definitely did. And I've just recently been looking at the teacher registration, and it's obvious that the specific categories of teacher registration are things that we really do. Yeah. We really
Esther?
do those things.
Esther?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? No, you can't. Okay, I will come in. Okay. Yeah, that definitely came up. That's a real bugbear, and that's probably part of the reason why people don't stay over 5 years, because it's like there's like no pay scale, isn't it? You know, there's no protection, there's no real progression through a career, and you can't even stay registered as a teacher. There's a lot of things that are stopping, and our profession will be so much longer, so much better if we could keep people in the profession for longer. I think that's really something we should aim for, because, you know, people want to be professional. We have to sort of enable people to be professional, and that's through having the structures. Yes. Well, you just need to get someone from your supporting community. Probably we have someone who does that at my institution, who is from a nearby school, who's willing to take on that role to maintain registration.
So that's really interesting, because when I spoke to the ministry, they didn't actually give that as an answer.
I was actually wondering, sorry to jump on there, we were actually thinking whether that could become something MENS could pursue. Because we've all had individual conversations with the Teachers' Council or with the Ministry of Education, like in your case too, and we get different information. So if we as MENS, as a network, can pursue that together, it might be really helpful. Sorry. Well, our institution is an institution which can maintain, we worked for that, we developed it, and so now we're an institution that we can maintain registration. I'm registered. I haven't taught in the classroom since 2001. I'm still registered. And we do that by firstly having this institutional setting thing, and also having a principal or a senior teacher who's willing to take on the role of checking that you fulfil the criteria. So you can do it, and you're welcome to email me if you want to talk about the way we do it. I don't know many institutions that are like ours that have got that role, so I'm really happy to share our understanding about it. It's quite a long time ago that we got acknowledged as a setting.
I think historically it seems to have rolled over, but to actually try and apply for it now is quite difficult.
Yeah, it's been quite a few years. I think it's been like about 15 years that we've been a setting for that, and yeah, we just need to, every 3 years we have to just make sure that we've got everything in place to keep it going. Yeah, because we weren't an institution like that when I started there. We had to actually get it. Yeah. Okay, I think it's lunchtime, isn't it? Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.